Now we're going to talk about the second part of this lecture, how to estimate discount rate for non-scaling projects. So I will introduce you to different approach. One is use beta, the other use proposition 2. So first, what do we mean by scaling enhancing project or non-scaling enhancing project? Okay. So if I call expansion project, you probably make more sense. For example, you see so many chain stores like Starbucks, Costco, 24-hour fitness. Very often you will see a new Starbucks coffee store around the corner, right? So when you go to this new Starbucks, you will see that they offer same kind of a drink, same kind of coffee, and the same type of service. Another word, they run the same way, they operate the same way, they have the same exactly business model. So we assume the type of running this new Starbucks store is going to have the same risk as the other ones. So it is very common we will use firm's WACC as discount rate for these new projects, expansion project. A non-scaling enhancing project is company have investment which will be different from what they usually do. So they will go to a new line of business. For example, Costco offer grocery store shoppings. If they have a project considering they offer real estate, then that's very different from what they usually do. So that is a type of a non-scale enhancing project, not non-expansion project. In this case, it's not appropriate to use firm's WACC as discount rate. Instead, we have to estimate discount rate separately. The common approach we used in this situation is use Pureplay Approach. So how does this work? So for example, Costco's example, Costco want to have an investment in real estate sector. So what we're going to is go to this same real estate sector. We'll find out companies, pure play firms, they exclusively focus on the real estate. So it's not that they have multi-division company or it's not diversified companies. So we found a few of these pure play firms in the real estate sector. Then we want to use the average business risk from these pure play firms as our approximation as discount rate later on for our real estate project for Costco. So the key is that we assume the business risk is the same when we use pure play firms. One thing we do have to address is the leverage effect. So leverage, maybe some of the pure play firms are levered. Maybe the new proposed project are also levered. They are not necessarily leveraged in the same proportion. So the leverage difference will make things complicated. In order to separate the financial risk, which is associated with the leverage ratio, we want to separate them. So how? So typically, the reported beta, when we estimate through stock returns or the quoted beta, these are equity beta. So that's a mixture of the financial risk and the business risk. Same thing, the cost equity we see is also have an influence of financial risk or leverage effect. So to separate financial risk, to get pure business risk approximation, we want to have asset beta or asset zero, the cost of unlevered capital. Recall in Chapter 13, we addressed the unlevered asset beta, levered equity beta, and how we convert from asset beta to equity beta, vice versa from equity beta to asset beta. To use this approach, we assume the beta of the debt is zero. So this is useful when we have a risk-free debt. Another approach is recall we have proposition 2. From R sub 0, the cost of unlevered capital. Use the debt equity ratio, we can figure out the cost equity. And if we know cost equity, we know the equity ratio, we actually are able to figure out cost of unlevered capital R sub 0. So these are the two approaches we may consider when we want to use Pureplay approach. The first example I'm going to introduce you is using asset beta approach. The company J. Rose Corporation manufactures staples. They want to consider a project in the aircraft adhesive industries. So this is a new line of business. The initial investment is $1 million. The unlevered after-tax cash flow is $300,000 per year forever. The firm will finance project with 50% debt, assume debt is risk-free. Now, in this new line of business, the aircraft adhesive industry, we have three competitors, all three pure play firms. And they have unlevered beta of 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. Means we already did some adjustment. Once we have those quoted equity beta, we will adjust through by the equity ratio to figure out the unlevered beta or asset beta. So this we already adjusted. Given market risk premium 9%, risk-free 5%, tax 34%. We want to figure out discount rate or net present value for this new proposal. So usual step is for the pure play firms, we want to get average unlevered beta. Okay. The good news is it's already average beta to begin with, so we can only just get the average of three of them. Then for the J. Rose new project, recall it's also loaded with 50% debt. From unlevered beta, asset beta, we have to level up with 50% debt. Now we will use Chap18 model, figure the cost equity, then WACC, then net present value. Ready? Step 1, 3 pure play firms. It's already unlevered beta. Average, we got 1.3. Then we have to use beta conversion and find out equity beta. Recall our debt is 50%, equity is 50%. So we have equity beta 2.16. Now use Chap18 model, figure the cost equity, okay, risk premium market risk premium 9%. Given cost equity and the cost of debt is risk-free 5%, and the proportion of debt equity 50%, we got a WACC 13.9. Last step, so these are already unlevered cash flow and the WACC. We can subtract initial investment. We got a net present value of $1.6 million. So in practice, when you use this approach, remember that the betas from pure play firms often are equity beta, levered beta. So you may have to use one more time the beta conversion formula to get unlevered beta. So that's one example, use asset beta approach. Here has another practice for you to try on your own. Now I'm going to go over another example, use R0, MM Proposition 2 approach. WWE is a conglomerate, want to start a new widget business. So this project is going to be financed with 25% debt. Only one firm in this widget industry, AW has 40% debt, equity beta 1.5, cost debt of 12%. WWE plans to borrow for its widget venture at 10%. Tax 40%, market risk premium 8.5%, risk-free is 8%. Question: what is appropriate discount rate for WWE to use for its widget venture? Now, you might be tempted to use original approach, which is the beta approach, but check do we have risk-free debt? For AW, debt is 12%, so it's not debt-free. WWE has 10%, but risk-free is 8%. So in this case, we will use another approach, is use R0, given cost equity to find out R0. Use R0 as our business risk for AW and WWE's venture. So step 1, so we will find out AW. This is our pure play companies. Find out what is cost equity for AW. Given AW's debt 40%, equity 60%. So we will use CAPM model, figure out 1.5 beta, figure out AW's cost equity. Then use proposition 2 to figure the cost of unlevered. Right? So once we figure the cost of unlevered as sub-zero, now we can use this as a business risk for our WWE's new project. Right? So remember we have different leverage ratio, so use proposition 2 one more time to level up to find the cost equity for WWE. Lastly, WACC. Now let's go over solution together. So for AW, given beta 1.5, and we found the cost equity 20.75%. Right? So this is levered with a mixture of financial leverage effect and the business risk. So we want to use proposition 2 formula, given this cost equity, to back out a sub-zero. Okay? And the debt is 40%. So we figured out, use algebra, R sub-zero is 18.25. Now this is the one we can use as a business risk for the WWE's widget venture. Okay, so we have to use proposition 2 one more time, as WWE's project has a different amount of debt, 25%. So we try one more time, and the cost equity for WWE, 19.9%. So given 25%, 75% debt, we use WACC to figure discount rate for WWE's widget venture is 16.45. Do you understand the procedure? Do you understand why we are not able to use beta approach anymore? Because we have we have a risky debt. So again, we also want to use proposition 2 times. Okay, once is unlevered to get a sub-zero. Second, to level up to get a cost equity. I have another example for you to practice on your own. To summarize, we talk about what is non-scaling projects, what are the common approaches to address finding a discount rate for non-scaling projects. So that's all for this lecture.